just want to go ahead and let you make some comments, and we'll open questions from the floor at any time. We've got about an hour.
I was here to hand out complaint forms for TSA, but they got lost in the baggage on my way down. Well, thank you, Matt. It's my pleasure to be here. I'm John Andrews. Over the last year now, I've been named the Director of Counterintelligence for the Department of Homeland Security. But it's a real honor for me to be invited back here. I started my academic career here at SIU, actually as a critic, what we called at the time, law enforcement administration major. I was a member of ROTC here, was commissioned in the military police corps out of ROTC here at SIU. So it's again an honor. Earlier today, we were talking to a group of high school students from Carbondale High School, and I commented to them that knowing that I was going to even come to speak with you today and some of the other classes, the law students later today, that the most intimidating group that I expected to speak to was that high school group right there. And I tell you, great questions. I was impressed with some of the things that they were asking. But as we were talking about, one of the things that I noted to them was, I really started developing an interest in national security and law enforcement in high school. And I joined the National Guard when I was 17 out of high school in Springfield, and then was able to continue that interest here at SIU with ROTC, starting out, like I said, in law enforcement administration, but wanting to do something a little bit different, and developed a special major in international studies here at SIU. And that's really been the foundation for whatever else I've been able to do within the program. Out of college, I did like most of you will do, filled out applications to everybody and anybody in order to get a job. And actually, I started out my career as a special agent with the State Department, Bureau of Diplomatic Security. But as I was saying earlier, that I had two classmates actually from the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center that were on Pan Am 103 that crashed. And at that point, I decided I wanted to be more involved and proactive in identifying threats to our nation. And I was able to, from there, apply for and be selected into as an intelligence officer at the time with the Department of Defense. I spent most of my career with the Department of Defense. I took a small sabbatical, if you will, outside of the intelligence community, sort of. I was appointed to the Senate Intelligence Committee, where I served for almost 3 years before coming back to the department at DIA. And then I was, most recently in the last year, appointed to the Senior Executive Service and assigned to the Department of Homeland Security as the Director of Counterintelligence. So counterintelligence, what do? The counterintelligence is those activities designed to identify, protect, and neutralize threats from foreign powers, foreign intelligence services, their agents, foreign organizations, to identify and exploit and obtain our information or exploit our vulnerabilities. And within the department, since the department has stood up, consolidating 22 separate government organizations into one single department, that's been a huge challenge. Some of the things that we face are not just challenges from traditional foreign intelligence services, but also challenges from non-traditional threats such as drug trafficking organizations, which are becoming more prolific on our borders, and transnational criminal organizations who use the same methodologies that our former adversaries' intelligence services used. So if I'm a drug trafficking organization along the southwest border, I'm using the same type of methodologies to identify potential customs officers, border patrol agents who are vulnerable. I'm using the same methodologies to recruit them. I'm offering them money. I'm exploiting them, blackmailing them. I'm using the same type of intelligence methodologies to identify where we're vulnerable, or where our special activities may be in terms of sensor arrays and things like that, in order to defeat those activities that we're trying to put in place to protect our interests. So that's what our counterintelligence mission is within the department. It's a growing business. As we were talking earlier, about a year ago, I'm sure you've read in the paper, an individual in Iraq, a young soldier, downloaded about 286,000 classified documents and sent them to an organization called WikiLeaks. Well, that one individual in that one instance caused such significant damage to some of our programs, our federal programs, putting lives in danger, individuals that were supporting U.S. interests in Iraq and Afghanistan, assisting us in places like Guantanamo, governments that were working with us to facilitate some of our national interests. What he did is put at risk a lot of those individuals, a lot of those programs, a lot of those activities. So within probably the next week, there's going to be an executive order coming out. A new executive order has been drafted as a result of this, called the Safeguarding and Securing and Sharing Classified Information and Sensitive Information. And what it's going to do is going to mandate some information sharing parameters. We've gone maybe a little too far on the need to share and forgotten that we also need to protect. So it's going to put in place some minimal government standards. It's also going to dictate that the 72 governmental departments and agencies that handle classified and sensitive information institute some type of counterintelligence program in order to identify individuals like the gentleman that compromised the information, and identify these types of individuals, these types of activities, identify vulnerabilities in our systems, so we don't have, hopefully, another type of WikiLeaks type of issue. So that will make our programs, our counterintelligence program, almost a growth industry in the federal government, which we talk about cuts coming down in the federal government, being one that's relatively safe and secure is an anomaly. But counterintelligence is important. We can't have privacy of information if we don't have a means to protect that information from being released. We can't have our national security programs compromised in the end, because that ends up costing us, the taxpayer, even more money. So counterintelligence is right now, for the next year or so, a growth industry as we try to put some of these mechanisms in place. So as an introduction, I just wanted to kind of get that out there and